हेलो। हेलो। अस्सलाम वालेकुम। हेलो। ठीक हो भाई जनाब, क्या हाल है, खैरियत से? بر محمد وآل Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Thank you everyone for participating. We are going to start off with Hadith Kisa. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bur Muhammad wa'ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Thank you everyone for participating. We are going to start off with Hadith Kisa. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به. فصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن عليه السلام قد أقبل فقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل أحسن نحو الكساء فقال: السلام عليك يا جدا يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي يا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن حسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدا. السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي يا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب فقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي يا وصيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي وقد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء ثم أتيت نحو الكساء فقلت السلام عليك يا أبتا يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي يا بدعتي قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما أكملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن آذاهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهم عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتعزن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم. وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله فإنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبيه يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فضنا وفاض شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا بمحفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فضنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فاضوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Please recite Surah Fatiha for the soul of Mirza Asad Ali Baig, son of Mirza Ahsan Ali Baig. Surah Al-Fatiha. So I will ask Ahmed Mirza Sahab to please come and recite Salam to begin the Majlis.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
مولانا آ رہی آواز میری پوری؟
Yes, yes. آواز آ رہی ہے. بسم اللہ.
اوکے ایک اور درود بھیج دیجیے گا محمد و آل محمد. اللہم صلی علی محمد. دوپہر کو حسین جب کے چلے پائے دوپہر کو نہ تھا کوئی سنبھالے رکابے توسن کو ناصرہ تھا کوئی شاہ کربلائی کو فقط وہن نے کیا سوال دوپہر زن کو سکینہ جھاڑ رہی تھی پدر کے دامن کو حسین چھپ کے کھڑے تھے جھکائے گردن کو محمد و آل محمد صلوات
صلی علی محمد
وآل محمد.
تھینک یو مولانا تھینک یو ویری مچ
انشاءاللہ اللہ آپ کو خوش رکھے انشاءاللہ. حضرت کے اب میں now I invite Brother Raza to come forward and recite Marsiya for us.
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. فدا ہوں اس پر سلامی ہے جس کا نام حسین میرا موئی میرا آقا میرا امام میرا موئی میرا آقا میرا امام حسین کو بھیج کے روزے پہ کر رہا ہوں دعا کرے قبول الہی میرا سلام قبول الہی میرا سلام حسین جو کربلا کی زمین پر ہوا تھا ان کا ورود تو پھر کے دیکھتے تھے قبر کا مقام کے دیکھتے تھے قبر کا مقام حسین نہ پوچھو وقت وہ کیسا تھا جب مدینے سے چلے ہر ایک کا لیتے ہوئے سلام ہر ایک کا لیتے ہوئے سلام حسین سنانا کسی سنگ دل نے لاکھ کہا رسول کا ہوں نواسا ہے میرا نام رسول کا ہوں نواسا ہے میرا نام حسین فدا اس پر جب خاتمہ بخیر ہوا فوج شاہ کا کوثر پا قافلہ گیا پیاسی سپاہ کا گھر لٹ گیا جنابے رسالت پناہ کا خاک اتحاد یہ تھا بارگاہ کا بھائی تھے نے رفیق نا وہ نور عین تھے دو بہن رونے والی تھی اور ایک حسین دو بہنیں رونے والی تھی اور ایک حسین تھے فرماتے تھے کہ وہاں یہ تاخیر اجل اکبر کے بعد کون سا تھا عزیز کا محل اب مجھ کو ایک برس کے برابر ہے ایک پل موت ہے اب یہ ہے شجر زندگی کا پھل ایک جا چھری گلوں پر جو چلتی تو خوب تھا یہ جان ان کے ساتھ نکلتی تو خوب یہ جان ان کے ساتھ نکلتی تو خوب تھا ہم سب کے بعد خلق سے جانے کو رہ گئے سر پیٹنے کو اشک بہانے کو رہ گئے اس نوجوان کا داغ اٹھانے کو رہ گئے اس نوجوان کا داغ اٹھانے کو رہ گئے پیری میں ٹوکرے کھانے کو رہ گئے بیٹا کہاں خبر جو دم انتقال اتنا نہیں کوئی کہ گرو تو سنبھال نہیں کوئی کہ گرو تو سنبھال ناگاہ سوئے لاشیں پسر جا پڑی نظر چلائے دل کو تھام کے سلطان بیروبار سوتے ہو کیا دھرے ہوئے رخسار خاک پر اکبر اٹھو کے گھوڑے سے گرتا ہے اب پدر بھولے پدر کو نیند میں قربان آپ کے آؤ نماز عصر پڑھو ساتھ باپ نماز عصر پڑھو ساتھ باپ کے چلایا فوج کو پسر رے ساد نابکار لو گھیر لو حسین کو سب مل کے ایک بار پلٹے پرے سواروں کے لے کر رسالہ دار دو غول باندھے آئے کماندار 10,000 تیر افغانوں میں تیغوں میں بھالوں میں گر گئے بےکس حسین برچیوں والوں میں گر گئے بےکس حسین برچیوں والوں میں گر گئے گرتے ہیں آپ کون سنبھالے کوئی نہیں ٹھکاتی سینے سے تیر کار نکالے کوئی نہیں سب مر چکے جانے والے کوئی نہیں سب مر چکے جانے والے کوئی نہیں جا پڑے ہیں گو کے پالے کوئی نہیں بے کس ہے آپ زور سپاہ عدو کا ہے منہ جس کا دیکھتے ہیں وہ پیاسا لہو کا ہے منہ جس کا دیکھتے ہیں وہ پیاسا لہو کا ہے فیضان جان کے خیمے میں بیووں کو دی خبر ہے میرے خزادے کا کٹتا ہے تن سے سر بستر سے اٹھ کے گر پڑے سجادے ناہگر خیمے سے نکلی بی بی بچوں کو چھوڑ کر ہلتا تھا عرش حضرت زینب کے بیل سے گر گر کے دوڑتی تھی کہ میل حسین گر گر کے دوڑتی تھی کہ میل حسین سے چلاتی تھی ارے میرا بھائی ہے کس طرح لوٹی ہوئی علی کی کمائی ہے کس طرح دریا کی درختوں کا ترائی ہے کس طرح دریا کی درختوں کا ترائی ہے کس طرح ہونے کی جا حسین نے پائی ہے کس طرح راستہ دے اے زمیں کے فلک کی ستائی ہوں میں اپنے پیارے بھائی سے ملنے کو آئی ہوں میں اپنے پیارے بھائی سے ملنے کو آئی ہوں شیخ کراہنے کی جو آنے لگی صدا دوڑی ادھر نبی کی نواسی برہنہ پا دیکھا بہن نے کٹتے ہوئے بھائی کا گلا دیکھا بہن نے کٹتے ہوئے بھائی کا گلا آنکھوں پہ ہاتھ رکھ کے گری بنت مرتضی غم سے کلیجہ پھٹ گیا زہرا کی جائی کا اٹھی تو دیکھا نیزے پہ سر اپنے بھائی کا اٹھی تو دیکھا نیزے پہ سر اپنے بھائی کا صلی اللہ محمد و آل محمد
اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, please recite Surah Fatiha and 3 times Qul Huwallahu Ahad for Mirza Asad Ali Baig, Ibn Mirza Ahsan Ali Baig. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now I would like to invite Maulana Sayyid Hassan Naqvi to address the gathering and bless us with his wisdom.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Please recite a Surah Fatiha and 3 times Ikhlas once again. for the soul of Mirza Asad Ali Baig, the son of Mirza Ahsan Ali Baig. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد والثناء لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وخير خلق الله أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء، ولعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Inshiqaq, verse 6, that, O man, you are laboring toward your Lord laboriously, and you will encounter him, you will meet him. Insan, as we know, based throughout the Quran, but especially in Surah Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Nabi Adam alayhi salam, that insan is created to become or to be the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. And he's sent down in order to mobilize all of existence, all of wujud back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So man descended from the Jannah of Adam alayhi salam all the way down to this material world. Why? Only so that he can climb back to that peak of perfection, climb back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as God says, right, in Surah Teen, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, that you are created in the best of ways. And ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ السَّافِلِينَ, and then we rendered him to the lowest of the low, and now it's our time to climb back up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this path, it wasn't just the angels that bow down to man in service of him, but all of existence prostrates to man in service of man to climb back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the only thing that's standing in our way is illa istakbara, shaitan. He's the one that rejected this. He had kibr. He didn't bow down, and him and his army, they are the ones that are preventing us from reaching our intended goal, which again is returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to counter or to fight off the effect of shaitan, he sent down the prophets and the awsiya, the a'imma, who are mukhlasin, purified by God and free from shaitan's influence, in order to help us through this struggle against shaitan. They've come in order to save us from this enemy of ours and keep us on this straight path. With these prophets, of course, as we all know, God has sent down the divine books, the divine sharia, and all of these are nur, they're anwar, that are meant to brighten this path for us, for whoever is seeking this path, And we're approaching the days, the sad days, the tragic days of Muharram, and the brightest light that we have is our third Imam, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Sometimes you need several lights. When you're going down the highway, there's lights after light after light to brighten your path so you can see. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam is that light. It's that one light that's bright enough for you to see from the beginning of the path all the way to the end. The path is clear. And this is what Muharram is, right? This Muharram, these 10 days that we're going to be approaching in about a week. The reason why it's there is because these days can be so powerful that your entire path that was otherwise difficult now becomes clear. You know, man is always concerned with shaitan and his tricks. And we constantly wonder how many times have we been asked ourselves or asked the scholars, why did Allah even make shaitan? And if he wanted to make shaitan, why did he make him so strong and powerful? Well, that's not true. The Quran says, Inna kayda shaitan kana da'ifa. That shaitan, his plan, his plot, all that stuff is weak. All those things are weak. It's simple, right? What does it mean to move towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The simple understanding is that we understand the ma'arif, the deen, the religion, and the divine laws. Sometimes we have people who don't know the laws too well, right? Or no, sorry, they know the laws very well, but they lack a deep understanding of the ma'arif. That obviously when you lack the ma'arif, you also end up losing out and messing up on the laws. Then there are some, which most of us are like this, where the ma'arif is there to a certain extent, but there's no real deep understanding of the laws, okay? So you need both. Both of these have to go hand in hand, and they can only be given to us through the divine teachings from the Prophet and their awsiya. I want to spend this a little bit of time. I don't want to take up too much time, but I want to take a little bit of time talking about this week that we're approaching, the first 10 days of Muharram, because it's so important. It's such a vital part of our spiritual growth. It's important for us to sort of talk about this and maybe get in the mindset for what's to come. Muharram and the Majalis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, in reality, that is the movement towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not just going to sit and listen. Our bodies are sitting and listening, but we're actually moving and reaching that destination in these 10 days. The journey with Imam Hussein alayhi salam is not an individual journey, it's a caravan. And we are joining the caravan of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam with these majalis and commemorating these majalis. The Imams never wanted to move to Allah, move towards Allah alone. That's easy for them. They were already with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're already at that perfect level, but they want to slow down and bring us. They turned back from Allah to bring us to them, or turned back with Allah is better to say. And they brought us and to try to bring us with them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the majalis are. The majalis is apparently on a very superficial material level. I'm sitting down and I'm listening. But in reality, we are sitting down and listening in order to move closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you go to majalis, we need to ask ourselves, what did I gain with this connection to the Imam? What promises have I made to the Imam? This caravan of Imam Hussein, which is growing since the time where Imam Hussein alayhi salam left Medina in Rajab, since that time, this caravan has been growing up until today, where millions of people commemorate and remember Imam al-Hussein, have all joined that caravan, where this caravan night after night will take us from one station to the higher station, to the next station. And we need to recognize this. We can't ignore it. If we cannot realize that we are moving spiritually with the caravan of Imam al-Hussein, then we know that there's something missing when we attend these majalis that are to come, that we left something out before we walked into the majlis. Something happened. My heart wasn't there with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein is Safinatun Najat, man rakabaha najat. The one who boards this ark of salvation, they'll be saved. We have to go beyond this idea that this caravan of Imam Hussein is a historical incident. No. We are not gathering for Muharram to recall events in history. No, we're talking about living Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When they say, and it's not a hadith, but when they say that every day is Ashura, it's a very wise statement. It means that this caravan is still moving, it's still going. It's still going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to join this caravan. And if we can understand this, that we are going to join and move with this caravan of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, then slowly, we should see us taking on the character of those people who were in the caravan of Imam al-Hussein. What is so special about this caravan? Every day they took a step, they got further and further away from what? Not Medina, not home, not Kufa, or wherever they were coming from, but they got further and further away from being attached to the dunya, and closer to martyrdom. To what? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll meet Allah. Now imagine there's one way that you can meet somebody, right? Let's say I want to go meet my parents. One way to meet my parents is that they come to my house, right? Okay, they make the effort. They do all of the work to come. The other way for me to meet my parents is I go and run towards them or make my trip towards them. I buy the ticket, I fly to them, I make the effort to go to them. That's what martyrdom is. Where the mulaqi, the mulaqa of Allah is going to happen no matter what. But are you going to run towards it or are you going to run away from it? Every step they took, they became stronger and more certain. And everything, of course, physically became harder and harder. So if we can understand this, that our work, whatever we're doing, becomes Husseini, it becomes Zainabi. That is when every day for us is now Ashura, and every land. That's what it means, that I want to run towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These 10 days that are going to come, they're going to come again year after year. And inshallah, we're there for those. Not all of us will be there again. But God is constantly giving us these blessings that you're here again for these next 10. Last year, you were here for these 10 days. This year, some people aren't there with us anymore. But you're still here because God is going to remind you again and again to check yourself. Have you joined this caravan? Or is this caravan leaving you behind? Those who were left behind, they were not just regular people. Some very important figures in history did not connect themselves to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Mufassirin of the Quran were missing. You see, this nafs and its desires, attachment to this dunya, sometimes it can hide within you very well. It can be hidden up until the point where actually push comes to shove. You know, other days, aside from Muharram, have this blessing as well, where we get to catch up with this caravan. The days of Ghadir, which we are in right now, days of Mubahala, which we are in right now. We should try to join this journey of Wilaya and traverse the different spiritual stations alongside Wilaya. The days of Fatimiyya, separate ourselves from those that broke their promise to the Prophet and did not keep their words. Safar, of course, Arba'in, right? Ramadan, mashallah, Allah keeps giving us these important events and days. So this caravan, as we all know, is accepting of everyone, young, old, white, black, Pakistani, Iran, whatever they are, right? This is what Imam Hussein is about. It's a caravan going in a certain direction, and along that way, anyone who wants to join the caravan in this direction is welcome to join. Anyone who wants to come can join. This has many implications, right? Some of us are very spiritual, very religious. We're much further ahead in our Islam, let's say a new Muslim. And we want to move fast. But we can't. We can't move beyond faster than the caravan. There are others that are very slow. You need to pick up the pace a little bit. This is what happened in Ghadir, right? The Prophet slowed down a little bit for those who were going slow, but he also called back those who were going fast. Just, hey, slow down a little. We need to stop here and join the caravan. Everyone needs to come together. Okay, caravans need to, and of course, Mana Baig knows this really well, right? Caravans need to watch over and take care of the weaker ones so that they don't get lost and they don't get left behind. At the same time, you still have to cater to those who are a little bit faster, a little bit more energy, right? But you need to bring everyone together. Okay, so that's important, that those who are very fast, are very ahead spiritually, sometimes need to slow down. But that slowing down doesn't mean you lose spirituality, because when you do things as a group, then you exponentially grow than as if you were doing it alone. So those who have higher iman, they're told to slow down, but that doesn't mean you're wasting your potential. It's just about redirecting that energy. And instead of using all of that energy on yourself, you're using that energy to help others with you, right? So you need to help others move faster alongside with you. You can't just go and leave them, right? So the Prophet, there's a story of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, where he told one of his companions that whenever you teach someone a good act, and this is really important for us who are really far ahead, Whenever you teach someone a good act and they perform that act and they grow through that act, it also counts as thawab for you. And if that person that you taught teaches someone else, then even that act of the third person counts as thawab for you. He said this chain reaction continues ila yawm al-qiyamah, that it continues until the day of judgment. Imagine the levels of spirituality you can attain if you just do things together with others. We need to stop seeing ourselves as this material entity. We need to expand our outlook and understand that I have a nafs and I have a ruh that goes beyond the material world. For example, God gives us rewards based on our intentions. So imagine you set up a majlis. My intention for this majlis is that I spread the message of Imam al-Hussein around the world. But 10 people only come to your majlis, so a small group of people. That's okay. Because my intention was for everyone to benefit from this. Right? That's what's really important. That I can set up a majlis and it's for 20 people, and I want these 20 people, or these 300, these 500 people that come to my masjid, I want them to learn. That's my intention. That's very different than if I say, no, even if 10 people come, I want the whole world to learn. That's my intention. Both of these things are the same. It's a majlis, but in reality, they're very different. Right? So it's really important for us to understand that we need to do things together with our intent. The spiritual, it's important to do together with the proper intention. So apparently, you who are full of iman, right? You looks like you're moving slow. You know, you moved from a large community and you're the board president of that large community, and you go to a smaller community. It looks like you're moving much. You went down. You sort of demoted yourself. But actually, you might be moving exponentially faster if everyone else in that smaller community is of quality. You know, Hussein didn't have 20,000 people with him. 72 people. 72 non-Hashemites with him. That's it. Now you don't feel like you're losing. When you're leading this small caravan, you understand being in the caravan itself outweighs being alone. If you move alone or people no quality, then okay, you pass away and there's nothing there to help you now. But imagine if you pass away in the caravan. Now every movement of that caravan helps you to continuously grow even after you have passed away. Right? This is why we're doing this majlis for the marhum. Because we want this deed to be counted for him, because he was part of our caravan, our spiritual caravan. Allama Tabatabai rahmatullah alayhi says that Islam is mostly communal. Mostly it's a community effort, Islam. Unfortunately, though, we don't believe this, right? When we spend most of our time addressing the communal needs, we don't realize that it's actually addressing my own spiritual needs. We think, oh my God, I'm doing this for the community. No one's helping me. No one's even paying attention. No, we're actually helping our spiritual self. We don't realize it. And the clearest example here is in the Majalis of the Ahlul Bayt. If imagine someone spends their time ensuring that others can attend the Majalis of Ahlul Bayt, and because of that, you're unable to participate, that is what real azadari is. Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi went to Mashhad with a group of friends once, and his friends would spend a lot of time in the haram of Imam Rida alayhi salam. And they would say that he would always come back early and prepare tea for us. And he would constantly keep doing this. And we asked him, why don't you spend time? He's like, look, if I can help the zawar of our imam, that is more reward than the actual ziyarah. If you can help the azadar of Imam al-Hussein and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that is more reward than you actually doing the azadari yourself. It's really important for us to understand that we work to ensure that this sunnah of azadari continues. And if I can be someone who's helping, and because of my help, I'm not in the majlis, as long as I'm supporting this sunnah and making it happen, there's more reward for that than any azadari that I can do on a personal level, right? So that's important. So how does all of this work? How can we be so inclusive of everybody in these majalis and still have that overall spiritual growth when there are so many varying levels of iman? A new Muslim, someone who just recently started becoming religious, versus you who maybe have been studying Islam since you were born, or you lived and grew up in the minbar, in the masjid, and you know so much about Islam. When Nabi Isa alayhi salam, he saw that the believers were very plentiful, a lot of believers, but there were many amongst the believers who were still engaging in sin and kufr, right? What does he say? The Quran says, فَلَمَّا حَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُمُ الْكُفْرِ قَالَ مَنْ أَنصَارِي إِلَى اللَّهِ قَالَ الْحَوَارِيُّونَ نَحْنُ أَنصَارُ اللَّهِ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَاشْهَدْ بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ. When Isa sensed their faithlessness, he said, who will be my helpers on the path towards Allah? The disciple says that we will be the helpers of Allah. We have faith in Allah, and you be the witness that we have submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi Isa began to search for his disciples who are special in that they wanted not just to help themselves, but to help others turn to that Tawheedi lifestyle. So when the believers with Nabi Isa were small in numbers, right? They had all the opportunity to spend time with him, grow with him. They understood their religion directly from Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And then when they started to grow large in number, of course, it's not possible for Nabi Isa now to be with everybody. So now he has these deputies that you go and you teach the religion to those who cannot or do not have access to me. Right? These disciples, they become like Nabi Isa himself. This is what's important. Okay, it's important that we become like Imam Hussein himself. Those 72 companions, they became Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The movement of Ashura is the clearest example of sacrificing and giving the self for the guidance of others. Okay, they gave their life for you to be guided. Right? Imam Hussein alayhi salam gave everything so that the society has access to Tawheed. And as we have learned, this was the purpose of all the prophets. All the prophets came down to teach Tawheed. This is why they call Imam al-Hussein Warithul Anbiya, right? Meaning all the difficulties the prophets had, he had. All the success the prophets had, he had. If Nabi Nuh alayhi salam dealt with divine flood, that was there in Karbala. If Nabi Ibrahim dealt with the fire of Imam Hussein dealt with that fire of Nimrud. He saw the fire burn the tents of his family, burn his children's clothes. He saw all of that fire. Tonight we want to remember a special person in our lives. And one of the scholars, he says that just as it's impossible to recite the fada'il of Ali alayhi salam and do it justice, it's impossible to recite the masa'ib of Abbas and do it justice. You see, Abu Fadl al-Abbas, he was no ordinary man. He is beyond the understanding of humanity. Your mind cannot understand him. He commands a presence that always holds people in awe, even until today. If you go to Karbala, right? Inshallah, all of us get to go. If you've been there, you see that all of the shuhada are in the Haram al-Hussein alayhi salam. Some are outside of Karbala altogether. But Abu Fadl al-Abbas, he has that haram that stands tall next to the Haram al-Hussein alayhi salam. But now it's Bainul Haramain, as if there's two equal harams there. He's the commander of Hussein. He is to Hussein what Ali was to the Prophet. One of his titles is Babul Hawa'ij. And he shares his title with Musa al-Kadhim and Hazrat Ali Asghar alayhi salam. I don't know why he's called Babul Hawa'ij, but maybe it's because on the day of Ashura, there's one thing that Abbas wanted to do and he was not allowed to do that one thing. He was not allowed by Hussein to go and fight in the battlefield. In exchange for that not being able to fight, Allah rewards him that Abbas, you wanted to fight for Hussein. You wanted to bring a little bit of water for Sakina. I will deny you this on the day of Ashura, but I will then make you the door for the needs of everyone. So when you have no door to turn to, ask Abbas. He's not any ordinary person. The poet says, Abbas tera thani dunya mein kahan mumkin. दुनिया में कहाँ मुमकिन अब्बास तेरा सानी, दुनिया को जो देता है उसने तुझे मांगा है. This is who Abu Fadl Abbas is. On the day of Ashura, the cries of Al-Atash are getting louder. اشتدت العطش على الحسين. The children, Imam Hussein, all of them are getting thirsty. There's no more water to be given. لما أرى العباس وحدة أخيه الحسين. When Abbas saw that his brother is alone, يا أخي هل لي من الرخصة? Can you give me permission to fight? فبكى الحسين بكاء شديدا. Imam Hussein, he began to cry intensely. He says, may I be sacrificed for your tears. فبكى الحسين بكاء شديدا ثم قال أنت صاحب اللواء, that يا Abbas, you are my flag bearer. When you are here, the women, they feel safe. The children, they feel safe. وَإِذَا مَضَيْتَ تَفَرَّقَ عَسْكَرِي. If you go, my army will be destroyed. Abbas looks at Hussein. What army are you talking about? Habib is gone now. Hur is gone. Zuhair, Burayd, Qasim, Ali Akbar, everyone is gone. Hussein, he says, look, Abbas, just go and get some water for these young children. Abbas, he mounts his horse. وَأَخَذَ رُمَاءَهُ وَقِرَابَهُ. He takes his spear and water container. وَقَصَدَ نَحْوَ الْفُرَاتِ. He went towards the Furat and raced towards the river. Abbas, when he steps in the Furat, he shows the world that he's conquered this river. He takes a handful of water, telling his enemies that if I had wanted, I would drink from this. You would not be able to stop me. But he knows he will not drink until his master has had his own water. So he fills his mashkap with water. Sakina's hopes are high. Abbas starts racing back to them. Now we are told that Umar ibn Saad, he gives out a command that no matter what happens, water must not reach the tents of Hussein. They surrounded Abbas. They started throwing stones at Abbas. Arrows are fired at Abbas, but nothing could stop him. Then the enemies began to hide behind trees. Some of them came out. One of them came out and struck his right hand and cut off his right hand. But Abbas is still not deterred. He's the son of Ali. He places the water container over his left shoulder. Another enemy comes and hits his left arm and cuts. فَضَرَبَهُ مَلْعُونٌ فَقَطَعَ يَدَهُ الْيُسْرَى. His left arm was cut. Still, Abbas is not deterred. He places the water skin in his mouth. He held the water container between his teeth. Then Hurmala, he takes aim with his bow and arrow. فَجَاءُ سَهْمٌ فَأَصَابَ إِلَى الْقَرَابِ. That this arrow pierced the water container. وَأُرِيقَ مَاؤُهَا. There, Abbas now, with the water spilling, his hope is lost. He calls out to his brother, Ya akhak, adrik akhak. Oh brother, come help your brother. Imam Hussein, he places the lap of Abbas on the head of Abbas on his lap, and he cries out, Al-an inkasara dhahri. Ala la'natullah ala al-zalimin wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayyamun qalbin yanqalibun. Please, one more time, recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhum Asad Ali Baig, the son of Mirza Asad Ali Baig, the son of Mirza Mirza Ahsan Ali Baig, inshallah. 3 times, or 1 time Surah Fatiha and 3 times Surah Ikhlas. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would like, on behalf of the family, to thank Maulana Sayyid Hassan Naqvi for taking his time, to say this majlis, and may Allah bless him with long life and more tawfiqat, inshallah. We thank you everyone for participating in this majlis. We will end inshallah with ziyarat and dua for Imam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, ya Habiballah, ya Khayra khalqillah, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulullah, ya Husayn ayyuha ash-shaheed bi Karbala. Assalamu alayka wa ala jaddika wa abik wa ala ummika wa aqik jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayka ya sahib al-asr wa zaman. Assalamu alayka imamana wa imama insa wal jan ajjalallahu ta'ala farajak wa sahlallahu ta'ala makhrajak wa dhahurak. Assalamu alaikum jameel masumin wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The dua for our Imam, inshallah. Let us pray for him. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma kulli waliyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Salawatuka alayhi wa alihi. في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا قائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك وتوأ وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. We thank everyone, inshallah, and may Allah bless you all for being here, for attending the Majlis, and for remembering Mirza Asad Ali Baig, and may Allah give the sawab of this gathering and this dhikr of Ahl al-Bayt to the ruh of Mirza Asad Ali Baig, and inshallah bless his family. Thank you everyone, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We will end this here.